Live from the 607, it is the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking sports locally and nationally. Why don't you join in the conversation with the hashtag ODPH? Here we go. And welcome to another edition of the ODPH. I am your host, Ken M. And sitting in the studio, it's not the Padawan J. He couldn't make it in this week. It's not Coach Duffy. He's on assignment. It's not the Sound Guy Galore, JR. He's on another assignment. Folks, it is the one, the only NostraDAWGmous himself, Edwin Fortunato.
Thanks for having me, Ken.
Thanks for coming back on the show, dog. Hashtag it up with us, folks. ODPH. We want to talk to you. The biggest news story of the week, well, we got to talk some NFL action to kick off the show. We do our locks and leaps, as you know. It's been a crazy week in the NFL. Dare I say, though, I covered my teams. They did it. The Minnesota Vikings defeated the Arizona Cardinals 27-17. Kirk Cousins had a bounce-back game, 233 yards, one touchdown, one interception, but didn't come back to haunt him. But when Latavius Murray is running wild for 155 yards and a touchdown, I think they're going to beat the Cardinals. I think it means they're going to have a good day.
Yeah, he's Murray's getting the opportunity now that Cook's been banged up for a couple weeks now, so they're starting to get back to normal.
Well, they had such a bad stretch against the Rams, and then coming off that Bills loss too, which I mean, I think that's unreal. And so it was like this was a nice game to get back to form. It was one that they were expected to win. It's nothing against our fans in Arizona. But Arizona is a team on the rebuild. They're not the same old Arizona Cardinals that went to the Super Bowl a few years ago. I think that's a very honest statement. And Rosen, I mean, he didn't play that bad either. 21 for 31 with 240 yards. One interception, but, still at the end of the day, it was a lot closer than I think the score let on. But when you're running back, it takes over in the second half. I mean, it's going to make for a long day for any defense. It doesn't matter who you have back there. And that being said, my leap, though, the Steelers got back on track in a wild one, dare I say, with the Bengals. I didn't think it was going to be an easy game by any means, but this one was just like, it was almost seemed like a video game. It was very back and forth.
Yeah, it was. We went down and watched games and everything, and that one was, that one was very competitive. You don't know, like, especially this year, like, Pittsburgh's been so night and day on, well, they're usually like that, home and road, whatever. They're still without Le'Veon Bell. Who knows when?
And that situation,
if he's ever going to show up to there. But I've heard like numerous like Pittsburgh Steelers fans listening. No, there's a couple of guys. There's a couple of guys that watch the games with their Steelers fans and just just listening to other podcasts and everything on sports radio, like they don't want him back. It's just,
I honestly don't know how you bring him back at this point. I really don't. Like for me, and like I say, I mean, I don't have any feeling which way towards the Steelers. I don't. But when your running back is sitting out and he's got more time, it seems, to get on Twitter and take some subtle shots here and there, and just be more of a distraction than, if he was just holding out and quiet and, let his agent take over, talking to the owners of the team, whatever, work out the contract, if it's going to work out. When you're getting on social media and you're kind of making that impression that it's more about you than the team, and you see the guys that are in the field every week and they're putting their bodies at risk every time. Because, I mean, let's face it, football is one of the most violent sports in the world, if not the most violent. You can argue it. Regardless of, how you feel in the situation, when you're sitting home and you're, taking your shots on Twitter or with your social media, it's not really becoming endearing to the team. And the one thing I will say is, from where they started, the Steelers seem to be rebounding at the right time. They seem to be coming back to form. I think with the veteran leadership they have in that locker room with Roethlisberger and even Antonio Brown, who I know everybody was chirping at, he wants the ball. Like we said in previous past, name me one wide receiver that doesn't want the ball every down.
Yeah, and he's a pretty good one too. So you have to get the ball in the hands of your playmakers, and
yeah, I mean, you can't have him
go from there.
Yeah, you can't have him just not get involved. Just the thing that blew my mind is how open he was on that last quarterback or the last touchdown he got. For 31 seconds left or 10 seconds left in the game, he ran for 31 yards. And just how open he was. Like, that, mind-blowing to me. Like I said, I can't even talk this segment without just, like, trying to get my words in order because I was that shocked at how much he had space. I mean, it was a simple pick move, but Cincinnati is like, how do you not have two people on him, especially late? You know the ball's going to him. You know they weren't going to try doing anything else. And, I mean, James Conner is making a good case for keeping Le'Veon off the sidelines. I mean, he's putting up similar numbers. Is he the same running back? No. But he's putting up similar numbers that they're getting by without him. And I guess if I'm the Steelers, I'm saying, you know what, you want to sit home? Sit home. We don't need you. I mean, as tough as it is to say, he's a dynamic player. Don't get me wrong. Le'Veon Bell can do a lot for an offense. But he has to want to be there. And clearly, he's having issues about his contract, so his head's not into football. It's into other things. And that's fair. But to bring him back at this situation, do you want him disrupting your locker room? What's the emotional level going to be there? And that's the question you got to ask about that. So moving forward, I mean, the Steelers seem to be getting back on track. The Bengals, not the world's worst loss for them. I mean, they're still 4-2 in the division. They're still looking good thus far. And I mean, it was a hard-fought game, so you can't really fault them either way.
They got a big one this Sunday night against
Kansas City.
Against Kansas City, so that'll be a good one too. I think it's that.
I think it's Arrowhead.
Oh, it is on the road. Okay.
Yeah, they're on the road at Arrowhead. So, Dog, how was your Locks and Leaps this past week?
I didn't do so well this week.
Well, it happens to the best of us. Break it down for us.
My lock this week was Green Bay on Monday night. I just thought being at home against a very banged up 49ers team, I thought I think the spread was like 10.5, but I still thought they would cover easily at home on Monday Night Football.
I tell you what, it was a wild game to go with, and like we said, Dog did not cover on the Locks and Leaps Invitational for the point spread for anybody that's a little confused about this statement. The Packers did win, but I tell you what, Frisco showed up, and if it wasn't for a bad interception late, the only thing I got to talk about Beathard on is that interception he threw late in the fourth quarter, like just kind of heaving it towards the end zone. It's like at that point, you got your kicker almost in field goal position, put it in his hands and see what you can do.
Yeah, especially having Robbie Gould. It's like,
who was killing him the entire game.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a monster game. I'm trying to recall here how many field goals he had. He had at least 3. And they're all late, and they're all at least about 45 yards, give take. So he was nailing shots. So it's not like, it was somebody that was missing. And I tell you what, for kickers bouncing back, Mason Crosby came through clutch. He looked like the Crosby of old, not the Crosby that faced Detroit.
Last week, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
I don't know what happened there. I guess, especially this year, it didn't surprise me, but he's usually pretty automatic. I know, like, kickers like that, they'll have, every once in a while, they'll have a bad game like that, but being this year, I don't know.
It's one of those things, I think the kickers are kind of getting a lot of heat this year because there's been a lot of bad misses that have cost games. I mean, you want to take a look at the Green Bay-Minnesota game in week 2, then how many times their kicks were missed in that overtime, and then, I mean, Cleveland, where do you begin there? When, from week 1 going forward, it's like kickers have been having the microscope on them a little too much, I think, this season. I mean, it's been warranted, don't get me wrong, but it's just we're really focusing on, badly missed kicks and really bad games. So to see Crosby bounce back, I think, is a feather in the cap. And then you got to look at it like this with Frisco. They played tough on the road in a game that, quite frankly, they should have been blown out of the water. And that's not to say they're a bad team, but Aaron Rodgers, arguably the best quarterback in the league, who is playing on one leg and is just doing what he's doing for, 425 yards and 2 touchdowns. And the one, you gave him how much time late in the fourth quarter? And you let him drive down the field from, his own 10-yard line?
Yeah, I think they went like 80 yards in like a minute.
It was like 81 yards, a drive with 1:07 left after that interception.
And no timeouts. It's like.
Yeah, it's like there's certain quarterbacks you can't do that to. You can't do that to Brady. You can't do that to Rodgers. The list can go on, but you give those guys too much time, and especially Rodgers, because he's just sitting there just probably foaming at the mouth. Like, you gave me this much time? and he just absolutely tore apart Frisco's secondary. Even though there was another questionable call about roughing the passer that happened late too, that also kind of extended a drive. So when those situations are happening, it's just one of those, I hate saying, calls like that impact the game and can definitely shift the tide, but it definitely shifted towards Green Bay. I mean, the roughing the passer call, it's like, I'm not saying it's as bad as, previous calls have happened, because, obviously take a look at what Green Bay had with Clay Matthews.
Yeah, and he had a couple in there earlier in the year, so it just...
Yeah, it's just one of those situations. It's a tough break when you do it, but, moving forward, it's just got to be one of those crazy things that can really impact the game, and teams like Green Bay will jump on that all the time. What else can you really say about that?
In my leap, I took the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the road. They faltered to Atlanta 34-29. I just took Tampa Bay because Winston was coming back, and the Falcons really haven't looked that good this year.
The Falcons are just one of these puzzling teams, and I've said this on a couple different shows, and I'm going to say it again. They have all the offensive talent in the world. They should be putting up about 48 a game in their sleep, and this was a step back to form. But they also just snapped a 3-game losing streak. And for that reason, you got to kind of question how this team is going to be moving forward. Matt Ryan had a great game, 31 for 41, throwing for 355 and 3 touchdowns. And, Julio Jones, yet again, 10 receptions, 144 yards, 0 touchdowns, which I still can't figure out how you can't get him the ball in the end zone.
Yeah, I don't think he has a touchdown this year.
He might have 1. I'm not even bothering to look up that stat because... Yeah. It's almost forgettable, but it's like you have that much talent in your offense, you should be running away with this. And Tampa Bay, they're puzzling in their own right, too, because they're coming off the whole Fitzmagic era, which is over and done with. Winston did come back, throwing for 30 for 41, 395 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. But either way you spill it, Atlanta did what they had to do. They finally got back on the winning ways. Where they go from here, I don't know, because honestly, you watch this team, I don't know who you're going to get each week. This is one of those teams that they should be good every game, but sometimes they just look lost out there.
Yeah, now they have got the Giants at home this week on Monday night, so they should win that. But
yeah, that one, but you don't know. That could almost...
Monday Night Football has been pretty...
It's been some exciting games.
Yeah.
They've been very tough to call. So, we're looking forward to it. Not to, give off the recap here, but to look forward to where Atlanta's going, rather. They should win that game. They should win that outright, and they should put up about 48 against the Giants because the Giants are struggling. They are looking very tough, in the sense of they should be doing a lot better than they are, and they're not. Obviously, getting blown out on Thursday night to the Eagles 34-13 was not the best look for them. And I know a lot of people are finger pointing at Eli. It's not Eli. I will stress this enough, is their offensive line. And have they improved in certain areas there? Yeah. Are they playing up to that potential? I don't think so. I think they're going to get there eventually, but it might be too little too late. Obviously, when you're 1-5, you're probably not going to make the playoffs unless you pull off a hell of a win streak.
Yeah, and against that, in that division, and I think they have a pretty tough schedule the rest of the way. So,
oh yeah, it's not looking bright for the Giants' future this season. Albeit, though, next season could be a lot of different things. And I know the argument that some people are saying, okay, with Eli, that they should have drafted one of the big quarterbacks this year. I don't necessarily think they needed to. I think they did the right thing by getting Barkley.
Yeah, he's like a generational talent, so they didn't go wrong. It's just like the Seahawks had the same problem as the Giants. The offensive line, they're slowly getting there, but it's just
too little too late.
Seahawks are still...
Yeah, Seahawks can still contend for a wild card, I think. I think that they can definitely turn it on enough. I think the Giants, though, being 1-5, they're not going to do it. And it's not a shot at the Giants. I think this year they're got to make steps in the right direction for next year. And if you're going to pull the trigger and switch quarterbacks, I think it's a mistake because unless you have the guy of the future on the bench or you're going to draft him, I think to write off Eli and say he's already done, it's like I don't think it's a fair shake to him. I think he's got to have more protection and to really, establish that offense because now he finally has a running back, but he can't do nothing when he's getting sacked half the time. That's no way to win games.
I think they was a couple years ago they drafted Davis Webb, and they ended up cutting him this last off season. So I don't know if he was the answer, but
Yeah, that was kind of puzzling because they were holding on to it for a while. But, I mean, granted, it's a new coach, so it's a new era, and maybe he didn't like what he saw out of him. It's tough to say, but it's like, what's the future going to be? Are they going to try going after somebody on free agency? I don't know. Is somebody in the draft that's really screaming out, that's going to be the number one pick because they're going to be up drafting high? Do you pass on a talent like that? I mean, there's going to be a lot of questions in the offseason. Coach Duffy is going to have a lot to say about that. I can fully imagine before season's end. He'll probably already give you his draft pick in week 17. I could almost say that would be my lock for the rest of the season for the ODPH, but we'll have to remain to see. But that wasn't even the wildest action of the week. The wildest game of the week had to be Kansas City at New England, which literally was like a Madden game on easy because it was the most high-scoring affair and just back and forth. The final 16 minutes of the game was up the field, down the field, up the field, down the field, and everybody's putting up points. It was like, we're not going to play defense. Let's just, go crazy with this. And, I mean, obviously it ended with a Gostkowski field goal to seal the deal. But I tell you what, Kansas City cannot be they can't look down on this loss at all. I think it was if there's such a thing as a good loss, this was a good loss.
yeah, I would agree. I've heard that a lot this week, just on other sports shows and everything. Just they stood toe to toe with them, and talking about that, the roughing the passer, the Brady touchdown. I don't know what that linebacker was thinking. I don't know if he wanted to if he thought he was going to get a penalty for.
I guarantee you he did. I guarantee you he did.
I think he said. I think he thought the ball was already gone, and Brady still had it, and it's just making these guys think.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing with how tight the referees are calling the games, especially when anything near the quarterback this season is being so impactful that you're not seeing players play up to their potential because they're worried about getting a penalty late. I understand what that Kansas City linebacker was doing, and I bet you thought Brady threw the ball, so you know what, I'm going to let him go because if I get hit or something on him, then I'm done. This is just one of those things that it's just like Brady being the wily veteran that he is, if I can use that word wily. He was very smart about, ball faking and just kind of sneaking in there for the touchdown. Albeit, though, is almost retroactive because as soon as Kansas City got the ball back, Mahomes went to Tyreek Hill for 75 yards.
Yeah, one play, 75 yards, so it really didn't matter. And it just came down to whoever had the ball last, and that was New England, and they kicked the field goal. Yeah,
I mean, there might have been a field goal in between there too, but I tell you what, as soon as Kansas City got the chance, they came right back down the field. They didn't even blink. It's one of those things to show how Kansas City's built, because I think with Mahomes as quarterback, I'm buying into the hype. I mean, he hasn't shown a bad game yet, and I think this was a real test for him. Because especially to beat the best, you gotta beat the best. If I may paraphrase Ric Flair, New England, until further notice, is the benchmark you set if you're an AFC team. You have to beat New England, and to win at Foxborough and to keep it as close as they did is a true testament to how the Chiefs are playing. You're not going to see this out of every team, and Mahomes is doing exactly what he was meant to do. This kills me as a Bills fan because we could have drafted him instead we traded our picks the year they came out. Not to say Josh Allen's doing bad, but obviously with his injury now, being out a month, Bills Mafia, I feel the pain. But Mahomes is definitely making his case for Kansas City, and they're built to win for a while.
Well, they did move up and draft him too, or trade up to get him too, so...
Yeah, I mean, they saw something in him that a lot of teams I think were waiting on to see. And he's got a great coach in Andy Reid who's really letting him play and really maximizing his potential. And it's just scary that he's only going to get better. That's going to be they're going to be probably the next dynasty in the AFC, arguably. That if they keep everybody together, because that's the one thing tough in this day and age with the salary caps, is keeping teams together long term.
Yeah.
I mean, as we talked previously with Pittsburgh, you're seeing that trouble now happening, that the money issue is now becoming a big factor in the locker room, so to speak.
Same thing happened to Seattle. I mean, you can't keep
teams forever.
You can't keep. Yeah, it doesn't happen unless you're the Patriots.
Patriots, but it's kudos to Belichick and the organization, because they can find players that you might not think can really go and step up to that level, but they find ways to maximize the potential of everybody they get. And if they don't stay around that organization too long. It's really interesting to watch as not a fan of the team, but just as an outsider. Because, I mean, as a Bills fan, it's just crazy to see how many former players we have that are up there that become superstars. And it's like, why didn't they do that down here in Buffalo? And then, I mean, obviously you can say whatever you want about the Bills, and I'm cool with that. But it's just somehow the Patriots find ways just to find diamonds in the rough, and they make stuff happen with them for the most part. I mean, they've had a couple misses here and there. But for the most, looking at them in perspective, they've gotten the most out of players that have been, considered washed up and done out of any team in the league that I can ever remember. And it's just scary that until Belichick and Brady leave, they're going to be doing it. And who knows when they're going to leave. Hopefully soon if you're not a Patriots fan. But It's been a wild week in the NFL. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. We want to hear from you. What was your thoughts on this past week? And what's your thoughts on this upcoming week? We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, I'm Mike Pappy from Rye Bread, and you're listening to the ODPH.
Coming back for the next segment on this week's ODPH, and the NBA has finally returned. Dog, are you excited for this?
Yes, I am. I'm a big NBA fan, so.
He's trying to contain his excitement. He's a big OKC Thunder fan. And, I mean, Westbrook is not in the lineup right now.
Yeah, he's still out. He had off-season. It was only like a month ago, but they opened up on the road against the Golden State Warriors, who got their big rings and reversible rings. So
yeah, those rings were amazing. I can't even lie. They looked amazing.
Yeah,
for their championship. But I mean, to kick off the NBA season, I mean, they were already back in midseason form. I mean, Steph Curry had 32, Kevin Durant had 27. But I will say, Oklahoma City, without having Westbrook in the lineup, hung tough. They only lost by 8, but still, Oklahoma City still was a factor in it. And, I mean, obviously, Paul George he had a great game, too, with 27 points.
Yeah, they did like 15 in the third quarter. Really, they had a big third quarter and kept them in it. And
yeah, I mean, which you have to give credit to do. I mean, Golden State is the benchmark right now. I mean, no, we were talking about the Patriots last segment. Golden State, as we're looking at the season, is the team that you have to beat. You have to match up your squad to Golden State, and can you beat them in 4 games? It's arguably not going to be easy for any team to do. And I know everybody keeps saying, well, LeBron's out west. He can do it. I don't think so. Not with that lineup. I don't think they're going to be contending just yet. I think they need to move a couple players around. A lot's being asked of Brandon Ingram to get involved in the offense. And especially LeBron, I think he'll be facilitating. And, I mean, they'll be contending. Don't get me wrong. But I think to already announce them in the Western Conference Finals, I think is a little far-fetched at this stage.
I think they'll be pretty decent this year. And you can even argue, I don't know if he has, I think Cleveland had the same, or I think Cleveland had a more talented roster than he had this year in Los Angeles.
It's debatable. I mean, the thing about it that he has now is he has a lot of players that are inconsistent, I would say. Because with Beasley, JaVale McGee, Lance Stevenson, Rajon Rondo, at this stage in their careers, are they going to be able to put that up in a 7-game series consistently? Hard to say. I mean, it's just hard to say. With Cleveland, I mean, the team was built more or less around him. I mean, with Kevin Love and J.R. Smith, I mean, you look at that lineup they had, Tristan Thompson. You're almost seeing maybe a lesser tier identical lineup. I mean, they're better in certain areas than they aren't. But for overall, it's like this team is not striking fear in anybody out west. I don't. At least I don't see it.
Yeah, you'll have to see how they go through the season and
because
they open up tonight on the road against
Trailblazers.
Blazers, I do believe so.
Yep. I mean, they're definitely going to hang in there. I think, though, this is not the final product. So to say we're writing them off for the season, no, I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying there's a lot more that LeBron needs if he's going to contend in the West, because you take a look at how the Rockets are stacked, how Oklahoma City's stacked. Even my sleeper team of this whole Western Conference, the Phoenix Suns. I think Booker and Ayton are going to be the guys. And I think that they're definitely going to raise the profile of Phoenix. And I think they're going to fly under a lot of people's radars. But looking at the overall West picture, Dog, who's standing out to you that can really contend with Golden State right now?
I think you have to put Houston at the top of that list, I believe. New Orleans looked pretty good last night, opening up on the road against Houston with a big win, 131-112. So they're going to be a contender with Anthony Davis.
Oh, yeah, Davis, I mean, he's got the potential to be an MVP for a while. I mean, he had 32 points, 16 rebounds, and 8 assists last night. And the Rockets, like you said, I mean, this is one of those teams that I don't know how Melo's going to fit in there. As much as a Melo fan as I am, I just don't know if he's the answer for him. I do agree they're going to contend. You got James Harden on there, Chris Paul. That's enough of a nucleus to really build around. But do they have a really strong defensive presence to really, dare I say, like, you're not going to shut down Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Durant, but can they slow them down enough to definitely get that series? They did show last year they might be able to. I mean, if it wasn't for Chris Paul's hamstring injury, they probably were going to go to the finals.
Yeah, that was a big injury late in the season.
But it's going to be interesting to just see how they balance out because, like you say, Houston should be there. I mean, New Orleans, if they keep Anthony Davis there, I know there's a lot of trade talk for some reason about him leaving, or he's even like expressed maybe free agency. He's going to head somewhere. It would be scary if he decides to go to L.A. If you paired him up with LeBron.
Yeah, that would be.
Like, I don't even want to think about that. That's how crazy I think that would be. And then, I mean, you take a look at like a team like Utah who could definitely sneak in there. You got Donovan Mitchell. I mean, he came back 24 points, and, you know, their win over Sacramento. They're another sleeper team that, I mean, they could definitely put up some points, and I think that they're another one that could really fly under some radars. I mean, with Rudy Gobert there, too. They could definitely make some stuff happen, and it's really just kind of, you know, interesting to watch how much the West is stacked. And then you take a look at, I mean, we haven't even talked about San Antonio with DeRozan there now, and obviously with the whole Kawhi to Toronto deal. Because if we're shifting from here, I mean, I think we're in consensus. This is Golden State's division until further notice. Are we or are we not?
Yeah, I would definitely agree, especially with Cousins signing there and just adding more to that lineup. It's probably, I would say at least this year. I don't know what's gonna go on with, because Durant can opt out. Klay Thompson's going to be a free agent, so
there's going to be a lot of moving and shaking going on with that. I mean, there's no question about that. And I mean, what's going to be really interesting to watch too is, I mean, I'm going to get into this when we talk our overall finals matchup. But Golden State, for me, this is the last run for them as the team you see them as now. In my opinion, I'm going to jump the gun. I'm going to talk about it now. I think Durant leaves next season, and I'm going to explain this very simply. He had to leave Oklahoma City to join the team that beat him because they felt that was the only chance to win. That's all he's been hearing about, and rightfully so, since he has left. That, oh, you couldn't beat him, so you had to join him. What is the one thing that would get everybody off that subject? If he won in New York, if he won being the guy for a team that desperately wants to win in the biggest basketball market in the world. Argue with me about it. There is no other place like New York City for basketball. And if he comes to the Knicks and he can bring a championship there, you throw everything he did with Golden State out the window. Everything. Everybody will remember that he won as a Knick. And that wipes his legacy clean. And I think, as much as it sounds weird for him to leave that situation, because honestly, you're doing so well, why would you leave? I think for legacy, he's going to. And I think as crazy as it sounds, he's going to do it. And I think the Knicks are going to be set up to win for a couple of years after this. But flipping over to the East, there's a lot more potential. It's not the Knicks division just yet, and those trades aren't happening. Who do you like coming out of the East?
I think there's a couple I think there's only one or two teams, Boston, Phillies on the up and coming.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really that loaded.
No.
So it's got the potential that somebody could sneak in and.
It's one of those situations where, yeah, you're right. Somebody could definitely sneak in and do some damage. I mean, granted, I'm not crowning the Knicks champions after last night's victory over Atlanta, even though I want to. I really, really do. But I think it's Boston and Phillies 1-2 punch, but somebody could sneak in there. I'm not doubting Toronto because Kawhi Leonard's there, and whether he's going to leave next season or not, that's debatable. I could see him staying. As crazy as it might sound to some people, because I could see him definitely not wanting to share the spotlight in LA where it's, LeBron has a lot of media circus around him. Arguably the best player on the planet. Arguably. There's a certain media attention that I don't think really appeals to Kawhi Leonard for going out there. I think that San Antonio, for being a very well-known basketball team, it's a different spotlight. I kind of sense the same thing with Toronto, that I could see him definitely staying there. And they have the parts to win, and they can contend. I mean, lest we forget, they were the number 1 seed last year.
Yeah.
They didn't lose that many parts, so they could definitely hang and contend. I do think, though, looking at the East, you got Giannis and company out in Milwaukee. They could definitely sneak under the radar because that's going to be, in my opinion, he's going to be a future MVP sooner than later. And depending on how many parts they get around him, that he could do some damage. I think you have to look at Philly, and as long as everybody can stay healthy, trust the process. Because with Simmons and Embiid, you do have talent there. And not to say everybody else that's on the roster. But those guys have to stay healthy, and they have to find ways to close. I mean, at least we forget in the playoffs last year, they had one abysmal game, if I can use that word. And they never got over that mental stigma from that. So with that being said, if they can find a way to win and win consistently, yeah, the sky's the limit. That team's built to win for years down the road. But you have to look at Boston, and you have to say, okay, you have Kyrie. He claims he's staying. Yeah. We'll wait and see. I'm still sticking to my prediction. He's going to leave in the middle of the night. I'll let Nick Saban leave in Miami. And you have Haywood. He's coming back. Horford's still there. Jason Tatum, future superstar on the rise. Rozier is there. They have got players in depth that should hang and can definitely be a great matchup for Golden State. And I think the loss to Cleveland last year was, I'm not going to say it was a good loss, but I think it was an eye-opener to show what they needed to do to get over the hump this year. Because at least we forget, Irving was injured, get that. Haywood was injured, get that. So you still have a young team that was successful, but needed to get over the hump and needed to figure out how to close. Because certain teams can do that if they have really good veteran leadership. And it's nothing against Horford out there, but he's probably the most seasoned out of that group that was there last year. And he's coming from Atlanta, who has not had great success in the playoffs, as great as they've been for a few years past. This is one of those situations where Boston, I think their time is now. And I think that they should win the East. Are they going to be my prediction? We'll see. But going into it, I mean, Dog, you got to like how Boston's looking.
Yeah, they're looking pretty good. They're looking pretty stacked.
Yeah, from top to bottom. I mean, they definitely are. I mean, who knows what you're going to get out of the other teams in the East? Because I want to see something. I hate talking about like the same teams in the East, but if you look at talent level top to bottom, where are the other contenders in the East? I mean, Miami, you don't know what you're going to get. Charlotte, still years away. Washington has one of the best backcourts in the league, but
nothing else.
But yeah, they have nothing else. I mean, I'd be surprised if John Wall does stay there if he doesn't get traded out. Not that he's asked her, I've heard, but I'd be kind of surprised if they don't try doing some rebuilding. Like some team out of left field, I think, is going to do some really crazy rebuilding. Is it going to be my beloved Knicks? Not after last night's win. No, that's enough. Get your season tickets. No, I'm kidding. But in all honesty, though, this is a Boston and Philly with maybe Toronto sneaking in. So if I have to make my unofficial prediction, I'm going to take Philadelphia. Don't ask me how. I think it's going to be a Game 7 type deal against Boston, but I think they find a way to win. I think that Embiid and Ben Simmons have the career games that they need to have in that series. And it's not to say Boston isn't going to contend. They're going to be there. Even if they have injuries again to Haywood and Irving, not wishing it on them in any way, shape, or form, or some other players, they're stacked enough top to bottom that they should be able to contend and at least be at worst case scenario. I'm saying this is like we have injuries galore, a 4th seed in that East, and they should be able to do some damage when they get into the playoffs. So that being said, who are you taking out of the East, Dog?
I think I'm gonna stay with. I think I'm gonna stick with Boston. They just got their roster, like you said, top to bottom, that can be superior to everybody else.
I agree. I mean, I think they're going to be there. Like I said, I think they lose to Philly in my unofficial ODPH prediction. But regardless, I think we're both taking Golden State to win the whole thing this year.
Yeah, I can't really disagree with you. It's just that lineup.
It's too stacked. I mean, if you want to talk about the dream teams, this has to be one. And I mean, this just goes to show about how Golden State and their organization has been smart about their drafting and their signing, and they've made the most out of everybody they've gotten there. I mean, Iguodala has been a great bench player. Livingston's been a great bench player. And those guys can definitely be a starting role on other teams and do some damage in minutes. But they're all working together. They all bought in. Everybody knows their roles on the team. And when you have everybody in unison like that, it's tough to beat them. I mean, you can shut down one player a night, but then somebody else is going to step up. You know, Curry, he didn't have the greatest playoffs until later in the series, and then he exploded when Durant was tailing off. I mean, they're just stacked from top to bottom. But overall, though, I think it's going to be a competitive season. It's tough to say exactly who. I mean, I know if you talk to a lot of fans, everybody's going to say Golden State versus Boston. Don't be shocked if some team doesn't sneak in there, because there could be some movement, too, with some trades. We haven't even talked about Jimmy Butler, and I think the over-under that I think he's on the way out of Minnesota, but for what, I don't know. But if you're a team that's on the cusp of contending and getting over the hump, do you make that deal?
Especially if you're in the East, maybe.
Yeah, I think if you're Minnesota, you have to trade him to the East. There's no way you trade him in the West.
No.
No, you have to trade him to the East. You don't have to send him exactly to New York or Brooklyn. But, I mean, could you just imagine if they just decided to trade him to, like, Toronto and move some parts up there? And you pair him with Kawhi? Like, that's a scary twosome up there.
Yeah, and that could
be what you need to get over the hump. I mean, Toronto has a very quietly deceptive team up there. They can do some damage in the paint, and they can definitely make some noise up there. It's going to be fun to watch. I'm excited for the season. I'm excited as a Knicks fan because after last night, we're already counting playoffs chances here. No more lottery picks. We're going to go all the way. No, I'm kidding. But in all honesty, though, the NBA is back. It's good to see it back. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of excitement. But let us know what you think about it. What's your thoughts on the current NBA season moving forward? Who you got going to the finals? Who you got winning it all? We want to know. Hashtag it up, ODPH. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Hey, this is Ken. I'm from the ODPH, reminding you to check out OchoDuroParlayHour.com. On our website, you'll find links to our social media accounts on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, past episodes, the blogs, and links to the bands that give us the music you hear each and every week on the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. So check it out, and as always, thank you for listening to the ODPH. Coming back for the third segment on this week's ODPH, and it is the fall classic of baseball. The postseason is here. The championship series for the NL and AL series have been going on, and dare I say, they've been kind of marred with some controversies here and there that unfortunately has taken away from some great performances. I mean, we take a look at the National League series against Milwaukee and the Dodgers, and everybody's talking about Manny Machado and his slide. Dog, you are an avid Baltimore Orioles fan. You've seen Machado play for many, many years. What is your take on the play?
Well, you have the slide, and then you have the first base. I think the more controversial one was a play at first base when he going up the line and he clipped Aguilar's foot when he was going to first base, and it kind of got him both benches heated up and everything. And they're saying, I think Yelich said he was a dirty player. I never thought he was a dirty player. He's maybe just a lack of effort on most plays by him is he's going to be a free agent, and I wouldn't give that much money to a guy that's had so much controversy around.
See, it's tough. I mean, I don't have a really feeling either way. I mean, I'm just watching the body of work. Yeah, some of the attitude and effort, I guess you can really call into question. Was it a dirty play? It looked it. It really did. Is it one of those things that you're just caught up in the heat of emotion and let your emotions take over when they shouldn't? You could argue that. And that's where I kind of was thinking it was. Is it something that, I mean, was Yelich in the right for calling him a dirty player in a dirty play? Maybe, maybe not. I wouldn't go exactly that far. I think it was just one of those, it was a bad look by Machado and a bad time to do it because you are in the championship series trying to get your team to the World Series. Why are you playing with such bad emotional judgment? That's the question. And you're right, he is a free agent next year. So why would you want to put that on your resume that you put me out there, I can't keep my emotions in check, and I'm going to play, and it's going to be questionable how I'm playing. I mean, this is just the facts from what we're seeing. Is it fair to say that he's a dirty player? I don't know. I kind of struggle with it. But I do agree with you. To have somebody with his talent, but obviously with his apparent issues of effort, it's a lot to invest a ton of money that he warrants. I mean, granted, he's a great talent. You can't argue that at all. But if you're the Dodgers or whoever else, and no, he's not coming to the Yankees. I don't want to hear about those tweets. It's a tough thing to ask for. I think he stays in LA, especially if they get to the World Series, which I mean they should. They're up 3-2 as we're recording.
Yeah.
So to let somebody that helped get you there, and you traded a lot to go get him. Let us not forget that. You didn't have any intent of letting him leave your organization, but if he's going to be the face of your organization, you know, you can argue that he is. You need to kind of have a sit down and lay down the ground rules and just be very blunt and upfront about it and knock this crap off. That's honestly the way I think you handle that. And obviously, they're on the cusp of getting to the World Series. Milwaukee has had a great series. I mean, it's been a fun one to watch, but you look at stuff like this happening and it just takes away from the game. And it's disheartening, too, because baseball has really kind of fought its way back to, you know, prominence, I guess, to really make it into must-watch TV. The Fall Classic is always something you watch, no matter if your team's in it or not. Playoff baseball is one of the most intense things to watch. But when you have instances like this, and you have instances like Houston and Boston, where you're having Houston getting caught videotaping signs or some nonsense like that, and then you have the home run controversy that happens. This is the headlines we're talking about. We're not talking about how Clayton Kershaw had 9 strikeouts. We're not talking about the back and forth that was going on with Houston and Boston, and the great catch that kept Boston in the game by
Benintendi.
Thank you. This is what we're not talking about. We're talking about how a home run was called back because of fan interference, and there is a lot of argument that it wasn't fan interference, that the ball was definitely not catchable. It depends. I mean, you're going to say, you're looking at it from a bunch of different camera angles and come up with your own opinion. Me, I thought it was a home run. I didn't think it was fan interference. That's me. That's not me being a Boston hater. That's just me being a fan, and that's the perspective I saw. But like I said, this is what we're talking about. We're not talking about the great series that's been happening. Houston and Boston have had a great series. It's been fun back and forth. And obviously tonight, going into it as we're recording on Thursday, it's going to be a definite fun game to watch with David Price, who needs a big win for his Boston legacy.
Oh, definitely, yes.
Going against Justin Verlander, who is postseason ready, and his reputation speaks for himself. If you ask me, the series is not done tonight. Houston wins, and then we see what happens Game 6. Either way, the series has been fun to watch if you take all that other nonsense out of the equation.
Yeah, they both been pretty fun to watch. I gotten catch a little bit both of them, but it's playoff baseball, so you never know what you're gonna get.
Absolutely, you don't know what you're gonna get, and like I say, I just hate seeing that when storylines are taken over and you get stuff that takes away from the game and what the game is supposed to be. That's the thing that frustrates the heck out of me. Because like I said, you have a great series going on. It's Game 5 for tonight with Boston and Houston. Houston needs to win to stay alive and force to Game 6. That should be the headline. And it should be, can David Price get over the hump in the playoffs? Can he be what Boston wants him to be? And going up against a very tall task in Justin Verlander. That should be the headline. But it's not. And it stinks that it's like this because there's been some great series. But when you have stuff that goes on lists, I mean, like I say, we're between Dog and myself, we are both very, very big baseball fans. You know my allegiance is to the Yankees. You know he's an Orioles fan. You've heard us on the show talk about this. But baseball is still fun to watch. And when we have stuff like this happens, and then, like I said, wherever the drama is with Houston allegedly videotaping signs, and I don't even want to get into that because that is just, it's crazy to me that we're ruining the games for this when it should just be one team playing another, best team wins. The bare bones of the baseball. So I guess with all that being said, Dog, who are you taking from the NL, AL, and give us your World Series winner?
I think Houston wins tonight, forces a Game 6, but I think Boston will prevail in the series. And then I think LA wraps it up tomorrow night. So Boston, Los Angeles, and that's going to be a storybook.
Yeah, I agree with you. As much as I hate to say it, I do think, I mean, obviously I think Houston wins tonight. Can they win 3 in a row against this Boston team? Not impossible, but not likely either. So I'm going to take Boston to get there. They haven't faulted yet, which I keep waiting for it to happen with how great their season's been. On the other side of the ball, LA is looking really tough at the right time. Milwaukee had a great year. I root for them to win. I mean, nothing against the Dodgers, but the Dodgers have been to the postseason a lot lately. Milwaukee hasn't. I do think the Dodgers are going to pull it off, and I'm going to take the Dodgers in 7 in a storybook classic series that I think we're going to actually have Clayton Kershaw versus Chris Sale. You know that's going to happen, one of those matchups right now. Arguably the 2 best pitchers on both teams. How fun is that going to be to watch?
Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be a good series if those two do meet up.
Yeah, and it's going to be a fun game to watch. And I'm taking LA no matter what. I'm taking the NL, period. I can't root for Boston. But let us know what you think on that. Hashtag it up, ODPH. What's your thoughts on the current Major League Baseball postseason? We want to know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Rob Kacharik from the band 607, Autopilot Off, and Walking Distance, and you're listening to ODPH.
Coming back for the final segment on this week's ODPH, and let's kick it off with that local minute. Our Binghamton Devils here in the 607 have come out to a pretty good start this season, albeit though they split a pair with Levels since our last episode over the weekend and were losers to Belleville this past Wednesday, 5-2, but now they're coming back to the Broome County Veterans Memorial Arena, or known as the Floyd Maines Arena to some. Either way, they're coming back home. They got Syracuse Friday night, Cleveland Saturday night, BinghamtonDevils.com for more information. Get out there and support those Binghamton Devils. Hockey is back in the 607. We can't be more thankful for it. And shout out to those Binghamton Bulldogs as well. Their season starts October 27th. Dog, are you excited for some Binghamton Bulldogs basketball?
Yes, I am.
Absolutely. Give it up for those Bulldogs. Support your local sports wherever you're at. Dog, why don't you kick off rounding the bases for us?
The sports community lost a great man this week. Paul Allen, owner of the Portland Trail Blazers, Seattle Seahawks, passed away this week at the age of 65. Our heartfelt condolences go to the organizations, his family, and friends.
Well said, Edwin. For my round in the base this week, I was hearing some noise about Floyd Mayweather wants to go another round with Conor McGregor in a boxing match, or he actually called out Khabib. I know there was like some back and forth on social media. I will be honest, I do not care to watch this. Either fighter box Floyd Mayweather. I don't know, Dog, what's your thoughts on that?
I don't like it either.
There's no rhyme or reason. Like, it just doesn't make sense. We've had this discussion before when Conor was getting ready to fight Mayweather. It's a different sport. It's a different type of style. It just wouldn't make sense. Floyd would beat either one of them in a boxing match. If Connor even had a rematch with him, it would go the exact same way. He'd gas out by the 4th round and he'd get picked apart by the 8th. Khabib would last longer because he has better conditioning. But we're talking the most defensive boxer of all time versus the greatest grappler in MMA history, arguably, with Khabib. I don't even, this isn't even worth, really delving into, but we did have some comments on social media about it, so we're just answering those back. No real interest. Don't see it going any other way but in Floyd Mayweather's favor if they want to go that route. But me, sign Khabib and Tony Ferguson already and get the job done there. Dog, why don't you kick off locking those leaps?
My lock, I'm going to go with Minnesota.
Okay.
On the road this week against the Jets.
Solid pick right there. I know Sound Guy Galore JR is all over that one.
I think Minnesota's they're finally getting consistent, and they're only 3-point favorites, so I think they'll cover that easily.
Okay.
And my leap, I'm going to go with the New Orleans Saints on the road against Baltimore. Baltimore's defense is pretty good, but I think Drew Brees and that offense can come and go in there and hand them the defeat.
You know what? Well said. I can't argue with that one. That one's going to be a real fun game to watch, too. Because New Orleans has a very underrated defense when they show up. And to see what they come up with against Drew Brees for Baltimore, that's going to be interesting to see. My lock this week is those Los Angeles Chargers taking on the Tennessee Titans. LA's favored by 6.5. It's so weird to call them LA. I'm sorry. I'm going to say San Diego. They should be in San Diego. Well, that's a whole other story. But anyway, the Chargers are taking them on. And it's the 9:30 game, I believe, over in London. I hope there's not a jet lag, but the Chargers are playing really solid football right now. And Tennessee, boy, I don't know what you're getting out of Mariota and company there. That one, we talked about Mahomes being the guy, the next big thing. Remember, Mariota was supposed to be around there too, and stuff is not going well over there. So I'm hoping the Chargers can pull off another win and take it home. And my leap, I'm probably going to regret this one. I really am. But I'm buying into the trap game that is the Giants winning on Monday Night Football. They're going to find a way to beat Atlanta and get to 2 wins. Don't ask me how, because I don't know. I have this weird feeling that Atlanta is going to play down to their level, and the Giants are going to sneak one and win 17-14. It's going to be something weird like that. It's going to be a low-scoring game. I don't know. I've been wrong before, so we'll see what happens. But let us know what your locks and leaps are, because we want to know. Hashtag it up, ODPH. That's all we got for this week. So for NostraDAWGmous, Edwin Fortunato, thanks for joining me this week.
Thanks for having me.
I'm your host, Ken. Thank you, as always, for listening to the ODPH. We'll see you next time.
All alone this night.